Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Forex forecast for the week ending December 18th, 2020. I'm TraderBart and this week I'll be looking at GBPUSD, USDJPY, GBPJPY and XAUUSD. Just a quick disclaimer, this video is for educational and informational purposes only. This video should not be construed as financial advice regarding the purchase or sale of any financial instrument of any kind. For the full disclaimer, please head to my website, link below. So looking at our first pair, we've got GBPUSD on the daily time frame. Price has been traveling in this ascending channel since March, forming higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. Over the past couple weeks, I've been pointing out that we are now in the next swing in the market as price bounced off the channel's bottom at 1.285 and making its way up to the channel top. However, as you can see, price has formed this rising wedge pattern, which we saw last week has now been broken out of, and price is now making its way to the downside towards the channel's bottom. Buyers in this market would likely look to go long at around 1.31 as long as we don't see a daily candle close below or outside the channel's bottom, and they would look to potentially target the channel's top at around 1.40. This is of course after successive rejections of the downside and continued bullish momentum. Sellers on the other hand would look to go short at around 1.327 as long as price stays below this resistance here, and we see price essentially reach, reject and continue to the downside. For targets, we could see sellers aim for the next support at around 1.29 and a long-term target of 1.20. Focusing on fundamentals now, there are several current risks to the pound's outlook, these being the coronavirus, negative interest rates and the Brexit negotiations going on. The outlook for the UK to leave the EU in December remains the most significant influence for the pound as it poses several risks to the economy. The coronavirus outbreak hampered progress and risks remain firmly tilted to the downside, with a hard Brexit or even a no-deal Brexit remaining distinct possibilities. In addition to this, the UK is also unwilling to extend the transition period beyond December 31st. As such, I recommend you keep a close eye on further Brexit developments, especially those which influence the odds of the UK leaving without a deal. Of course, the UK's progress on managing the coronavirus and any significant shift in interest rate expectations will also prove influential in the short to medium term. Moving on to USDJPY on the daily time frame, price has been moving in this strong bearish trend, staying below the descending trend line, and we can see many times where price has touched, rejected and bounced off the trend line. Currently, we are seeing price consolidate between the 104.7 resistance and the 103.7 support. And the direction where the market could be heading next is unknown until we see a clear breakout of these levels. If we see the overall trend continue and price breaks below the range, a formation sort of like this, then sellers could look to go short on the retest of the previous support, and then target the previous low at around 103.0 and then further targets at a monthly support which is around 101.5. If however we see price break above this range, something like this, then buyers could look to enter on the retest of the previous support here, then look for targets at the previous high at around 105.6 and then longer term highs at around 108. Focusing on fundamentals now, on Thursday we had the disappointing release of the US's initial jobless claims, which added to worries about the potential economic fallout from the continued surge in new COVID cases. This, along with the uncertainty over the latest US fiscal stimulus, these measures dented confidence in investors. It's also worth noting that US lawmakers approved a stopgap government funding bill on Wednesday, but have been struggling to hammer out an agreement on the broader stimulus package. The FDA has also approved the emergency use of the Pfizer vaccine in the US, which revises hopes for a swift global economic recovery. As such, the key focus will remain on the US stimulus headlines, which will play a dominant role on the dollar. So I recommend you keep an eye on those. These, as where things stand at the moment, it's still unclear where price could be heading next. Looking at the pound yen on the daily time frame, similarly to GU, price is also traveling in an ascending channel, forming successive high highs and higher lows. We can see this ascending triangle which was formed with resistance at 137.7, which we can see price broke out, formed new resistance at 140.0, retested, and is now treating the previous resistance as new support. Everything was looking good. We had another rejection to this new support. Price was making its way to the top again. However, as you can see, price has now dropped back down to this same support level and closed for the week. Buyers in this market would look to go long at around 137.0 and look for targets at around 140 and then longer term targets at around 147. Sellers in this market, however, would look to go short at around 137.7 as long as price is able to hold this new resistance. So essentially not being able to break above again and continue its rejection. Then look for targets at around 133, which as you can see was a previous higher low in the market. And then further long-term targets at around 126, which is also a monthly support level. We could also see a completely new trend form if price does in fact close below this channel's bottom. However, focusing on fundamentals now, it's sort of a mixture of both topics I mentioned in my GU and UJ explanations. Essentially, if we do see a Brexit deal come to light, we could see GBP strength causing price to increase, so long positions would be ideal for catching the next swing in the market. If however we see a no deal Brexit, which is what's looking more likely at the moment of recording this video, then we could see price completely drop in this market and reach that seller's target at around 126. But of course, as mentioned before, wait for the headlines to come out first. Analyze if whatever news comes out in the headlines, analyze if it causes weakness or strength in the pound, and then of course take the correct positions. And moving on to our final pair, I've been pointing out this bullish flag pattern which has formed. We recently saw price touch, reject and bounce off the channel's bottom, and price is now stuck consolidating at the previous support level of the second descending triangle, which is at around 1850. This 1850 support is a very important level to look out for over the next coming days, because buyers would likely go long at around 1850 once, as shown by the arrows, there is a clear breakout, retest, rejection, and then a continued bullish move. So 1850 is a place for buyers to possibly enter once there are successful price action confirmations of bullish momentum growing. Buyers could also enter around here and then of course look for targets at around 1924, which was a previous support here, then seen as resistance here, and could be the next resistance and hopefully new support over here. And of course long-term targets at the previous high at around 2050. Sellers on the other hand would also go short at around 1850 here, or possibly 1825 once there are clear price action confirmations of a continued bearish move, and look for targets at around 1785 and long-term targets at around 1720, which is the channel's bottom. Switching over to the fundamentals now, as we know, the coronavirus and the vaccine is the main driver for most currencies at the moment, as we're now seeing progression in the vaccine. For example, the US just approved of the emergency use of the vaccine, and there are even people who have already taken some of these shots. And although these arriving vaccines are great for humanity, they are bad for the price of gold. The pandemic greatly supported gold prices, so the expected end of the pandemic in the US should be negative for the shiny metal. However, it won't be till around mid-2021 where most people in the world have taken the vaccine. So there's still a lot of room for other movements to take place. So be on the lookout for what's going on in the economy and then take the relative correct positions. Anyways guys, that will be all for today. This will be my final weekly forecast video of 2020. I'm leaving the country for Christmas and I won't be back until the New Year's. I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Please show this video some love and I'll see you all next year. Take care everyone.